Hugs from the Heart. Story by Susan Creighton. Pictures by Joe Ewers. Follow along with me. When you hear this sound, turn the page. Tweaker hummed as she bounced her new blue ball. She stopped short when she reached the pond where Huggsy was building the tallest sandcastle she had ever seen.
Neat castle,
she called out.
Want to play kickball when you're through? Here, catch!
Tweaker threw the ball. It sailed through the air and straight into Huggsy's castle. Sand came crumbling down around him. Huggsy sighed as he looked at what was left of his castle.
I'm sorry,
Tweaker apologized. She picked up the ball and walked away.
I guess I'd better ask someone else.
She asked Precious Hugs, but she said,
Not now. I'm baking blueberry pies.
Tweaker felt sad.
I hope I can find someone who isn't too busy to play,
she said. Tweaker asked Huggins and Bubbles to play, but they were too busy.
Sorry,
they said.
We're planting our vegetable garden.
Tweaker asked Imkins, Patootie, and Tickles, but they said,
Not today, thank you. We're going on a picnic with our Huglets.
Tweaker wandered off toward the hill, holding Jitterbug tightly by the hand.
Nobody seems to have time for me,
said Tweaker.
It's no fun playing ball alone.
Tweaker threw the ball high into the air. It bounced 3 times before it disappeared into a dark hole in a big, hollow tree.
My ball!
cried Tweaker. She ran toward the tree with Jitterbug. Tweaker peered into the deep black hole.
Oh no! It must have fallen all the way down to the land of shrugs.
Tweaker put Jitterbug down on a bunch of soft Hugga daisies.
I'll have to go and get it myself,
she told the little Huglet.
It's too damp and creepy down there for you. Stay here and I'll be right back.
Tweaker hugged Jitterbug, then climbed into the hole. Jitterbug waited patiently for a while, but when Tweaker did not reappear, she began to worry. Then she began to cry. The Hugga bunch heard her and dropped what they were doing to see what was the matter.
What's wrong?
asked Precious Hugs, who quickly scooped Jitterbug up in her arms and gave her a comforting hug. Jitterbug sniffled and pointed to the tree.
Oh no! Tweaker didn't go to the land of shrugs, did she?
exclaimed Imkins. Jitterbug nodded and cried some more.
No one should ever go to the land of shrugs alone,
moaned Bubbles.
It's too easy to fall under the shrug spell of gloom and doom. We've got to do something quick.
Huggins had an idea. She ran to the garden house where she found some old potato sacks. She put one of the sacks over her head and poked out 2 little holes to see through. She ran back to the others. When Huggsy saw Huggins, he exclaimed,
Gosh, I thought you were a shrug.
That's the idea,
said Huggins.
Each of us will wear a potato sack so that we'll look like shrugs. That way we can search for Tweaker without being discovered.
They slipped into potato sacks and hugged the Huglets goodbye. Then, one by one, they disappeared into the darkness of the hollow tree. Down, down, down they tumbled. At last they landed with a thud and a thump and toppled into the dim light of the Shrug village.
Do you think the shrugs might have Tweaker in one of those caves?
whispered Patootie. Before Before anyone could answer, a shrug guard leaped out from behind a cave wall.
Halt! Who goes there?
He shouted, pointing his closed umbrella at the frightened group. Huggins thought quickly.
We're the, topside shrugs, and we've come to challenge you to a game of kickball.
The shrug eyed them suspiciously.
I've never heard of the topside shrugs before.
He said.
I guess you don't play kickball very often.
Huggins answered quickly.
It should be easy to beat you.
We'll see about that.
He snarled. He turned on his heels and called,
All shrugs to the clearing.
The clumsy shrugs came stumbling out of their caves.
We've been challenged to a game of kickball by the topside shrugs.
The shrug guard announced.
Does anybody have a ball?
Asked Huggins.
I do,
grunted one of the shrugs. He hobbled into a nearby cave and soon returned not only with Tweaker's new ball, but with Tweaker herself. Tweaker's eyes were closed, and she stood very, very still.
She's under a spell,
whispered Huggins to Bubbles.
We've got to save her with a hug play during the game. Watch for a signal.
Hugsy blew the whistle for the game to begin. Bubbles gave the ball a hefty kick that sent it tearing through the center of the shrug's line. As the shrugs tripped and fell over one another trying to get to the ball, the Hugga bunch saw their chance. They quickly surrounded the shrugs and threw their arms around them in a giant group hug. Hugworks exploded in the damp air, showering everyone with hug dust. Tweaker was covered with hug dust too. She slowly opened her eyes as if she were awakening from a deep sleep. The shrug spell was broken. Huggins pulled off her potato sack and threw her arm around Tweaker.
We've come to save you, and we've got to hurry. When the hug dust settles and the shrugs find out what hugs have done to them, they'll be hopping mad.
The Hugga bunch ran as fast as they could toward the hollow tree. Behind them, they could hear the shrugs mumbling and grumbling as the hug dust wore off. The Hugga bunch scrambled and climbed up the bumpy roots of the tree. The Hugga bunch tumbled out of the hollow tree and onto the softness of Huggaland. Everyone watched as Tweaker gave Jitterbug a big hug.
We learned an important lesson today, didn't we?
Said Huggins.
Let's promise to try to find time for one another from now on, okay?
Everyone nodded and shouted,
We promise!
And now, Tweaker, how about a real game of kickball?
Asked Hugsy with a grin. Tweaker leaped up and gave Hugsy a great big hug.
I was wondering when you were going to ask.